It is a Tuesday morning, not a vacation day, not a holiday circled on a calendar months ago, not a day granted by a manager, approved by human resources, or earned through unused PTO. Just an ordinary Tuesday. The clock reads 10:14 a.m. You are sitting outside a small coffee shop, warming your hands around a cup that costs less than $5. The sunlight is hitting the sidewalk at exactly the right angle. People hurry past carrying laptops, backpacks, and half-finished breakfasts. Some are talking into wireless earbuds. Others are checking emails before they even reach the office. Everyone seems to be headed somewhere. Everyone seems to have a schedule. Everyone seems to have obligations. And you don't. Not because you lost your job, not because you are taking a break, not because someone else is supporting you. You simply don't have to be anywhere. That single fact feels almost impossible when you're 22 years old. At 22, freedom looks expensive. It looks like yachts, luxury homes, private jets, and lottery tickets. It looks like something reserved for celebrities, entrepreneurs, or people born into fortunate circumstances. But by the time you were 40, you realize something surprising. Freedom was never about luxury. Freedom was about ownership. Ownership of your time, ownership of your choices, ownership of your mornings. The greatest luxury in the world is not a bigger house. It is being able to decide what happens next. And that's exactly what happened here. Not because of one brilliant investment, not because of extraordinary intelligence, not because of perfect timing, and certainly not because of luck. The truth is much less exciting and far more powerful. You simply made hundreds of small decisions that nobody noticed. One decision at a time, one paycheck at a time, 1 year at a time. Every upgrade creates a new baseline. Soon, the upgraded lifestyle stops feeling luxurious. It becomes normal. Then you need another upgrade, and another, and another. The cycle continues for decades. People earning $50,000 often believe they'll feel comfortable at $80,000. People earning $80,000 believe they'll finally relax at $120,000. People earning $120,000 believe the magic number is $200,000. The finish line keeps moving, not because income isn't increasing, because expectations are. That's why so many high earners remain financially trapped. They aren't running out of money, they're running out of margin. Margin is the space between what you earn and what you spend. That space changes lives, and the earlier you create it, the more powerful it becomes. At 22, you don't fully understand any of this. You simply open an investment account, maybe after reading a book, maybe after hearing a podcast, maybe after stumbling across a video that plants a seed. You deposit $200. Nothing dramatic happens, no fireworks, no celebration, no feeling of instant wealth. In fact, it feels almost disappointing. $200 doesn't seem capable of changing a life. But here's what most people miss. The first deposit isn't important because of the amount. It's important because of the identity. You are no longer someone who intends to invest. You are now someone who does. That distinction matters, because identities shape habits, and habits shape outcomes. The first year feels slow, painfully slow. The account balance grows by a few $100s, then a few thousand. The progress seems microscopic compared to the effort. Friends are spending money on vacations, new furniture, concert tickets, weekend trips. Meanwhile, you're sending money into an account that barely appears to move. This stage discourages almost everyone, because human beings love visible rewards, and investing provides almost none in the beginning. Planting a tree feels boring before it becomes shade. The early years are all roots. Nothing impressive is happening above ground, but underground, everything is changing. By 25, your account might contain $15,000, maybe $20,000, maybe $30,000. Still not life-changing money, still not enough to impress anyone, still not enough to quit your job. Yet something incredibly important has happened. You have developed consistency. And consistency is more valuable than intelligence when building wealth. People often believe successful investors possess secret knowledge. Most don't. They simply remain committed longer than everyone else. They keep buying. They keep contributing. They keep showing up, even when progress feels invisible, especially when progress feels invisible. Around this point, something fascinating begins to happen. You stop thinking about investing as an activity. It becomes automatic. The contributions occur every paycheck, the dividends get reinvested, the account grows whether you're paying attention or not. And that's when wealth creation becomes sustainable. Because motivation is unreliable. Systems are reliable. Motivation disappears. Systems continue. Most people spend their lives waiting to feel motivated. Financially independent people build systems that work even when motivation disappears. That distinction changes everything. Then one day the market falls, hard. Maybe 10%, maybe 20%, maybe more. The headlines become terrifying. Experts appear on television predicting disaster. Coworkers suddenly become amateur economists. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a prediction. Everyone believes they know what comes next. You feel nervous. Of course you do. You're human. Watching your investments decline never feels good. But you remember something important. You were never investing for next month. You were investing for next decade. That's a completely different game. The people who panic during downturns usually misunderstand the timeline. They expect certainty from an inherently uncertain process. But investing has never rewarded certainty. It rewards patience. The market eventually recovers. It always has. Not immediately, not smoothly, but eventually. And every recovery teaches the same lesson. Temporary declines only become permanent losses when you decide they are. The investors who stay seated often outperform the investors who constantly react, not because they're smarter, because they're calmer, because they understand that time matters more than prediction, and because they recognize a truth most people never fully accept. The stock market is not a machine designed to make you comfortable. It is a machine designed to reward patience. Those are very different things. By the time you reach your late 20s, something subtle begins to change. Not in your lifestyle, not in your social circle, not even in your day-to-day routine. The change happens inside the numbers. For years, you were carrying the entire load. Every dollar in the account existed because you put it there. Every increase was tied directly to your effort. Your work created the money. Your savings built the account. Your discipline drove the growth. Then one day you check your portfolio and notice something strange. The account earned more this month than you contributed. At first, it feels like an error. You run the numbers again, then again. But the math is correct. The account is beginning to participate. For years, you were pushing a heavy boulder uphill. Now the hill is becoming flatter, not because you're working harder, because the weight is finally helping move itself. This is where compounding stops being a concept and becomes an experience. People love quoting Einstein's famous statement about compound interest being the eighth wonder of the world. But very few people actually stay invested long enough to feel its power. The first phase of investing is frustrating. The second phase is encouraging. The third phase is almost unbelievable, because eventually the portfolio starts generating amounts of money that once seemed impossible. You wake up one morning and discover that your investments grew by more than your monthly rent. A few years later, they grow by more than your annual vacation budget, then more than your car payment, then more than your entire annual savings contribution. That's when the relationship changes. You are no longer the only employee working toward your future. Your money has joined the workforce. And unlike people, money never sleeps. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't take vacations. It doesn't complain. It simply continues working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year after year. While you're watching movies, while you're sleeping, while you're spending time with family, while you're sitting in traffic wondering where your life is going, the account keeps working, quietly, patiently, consistently. Most people never experience this phase because they interrupt it too soon. They cash out, they upgrade, they borrow against the future to improve the present. And each time they do, they reset the clock. What looks like a harmless decision today can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars tomorrow. Not because the purchase itself was expensive, because the compounding was interrupted. We rarely appreciate the true cost of spending because we only see today's price. We don't see the future growth that money might have created. $1,000 spent feels like $1,000. $1,000 invested for 20 years is something entirely different. That realization changes how you view almost every purchase. Not in a restrictive way, not in a miserable way, in a conscious way. You stop asking, "Can I buy this?" You start asking, "Is this worth delaying freedom?" Those are very different questions, and they lead to very different answers. Around age 32, many of your peers appear more successful than you. This is one of the hardest periods emotionally, because comparison becomes unavoidable. Someone buys a larger home. Someone else upgrades to a luxury vehicle. Another friend posts photos from an expensive vacation. Another receives a promotion. Another celebrates a major milestone. Social media amplifies everything. Every achievement becomes public. Every purchase becomes visible. Every upgrade becomes evidence that everyone else is moving faster. Meanwhile, your life can feel surprisingly ordinary. You're still driving the same reliable car, still investing, still saving, still following the same process you followed for years. There are moments when doubt creeps in, moments when you wonder if you're missing out, moments when the path feels lonely. Those moments are normal. Every person pursuing financial independence experiences them. Because delayed gratification sounds noble in theory. In reality, it often feels inconvenient. The challenge isn't the math. The challenge is remaining committed while everyone around you appears to be winning a different game. Then eventually you realize something important. You are playing a different game. The goal was never to impress people. The goal was freedom. The goal was choice. The goal was ownership of your time. And once you remember that, comparison begins losing its power. Because comparison only hurts when you're measuring yourself against someone else's destination. You have your own destination, and it matters more. By your mid-30s, the numbers begin accelerating. The portfolio that once felt tiny now feels substantial. Not enormous, not enough to retire, but undeniably meaningful. You run projections occasionally, not obsessively, just enough to confirm you're still on track. Each year, the finish line appears a little closer. Each year, the uncertainty shrinks. Each year, confidence grows. Not because markets are predictable, they aren't. Not because life becomes easier, it doesn't. Confidence grows because evidence accumulates. You have over a decade of proof. Proof that consistent investing works. Proof that patience works. Proof that staying the course works. Proof that boring often beats brilliant. The financial media rarely talks about boring. Boring doesn't generate clicks. Nobody writes headlines about someone quietly buying index funds every month for 18 years. But boring creates wealth. Boring creates freedom. Boring creates options. And options are incredibly valuable. Most people think wealth is about having more things. In reality, wealth is about having more choices. The choice to leave a toxic job. The choice to spend more time with family. The choice to care for aging parents. The choice to pursue meaningful work instead of necessary work. The choice to say no. Money doesn't solve every problem, but it gives you the ability to address problems from a position of strength rather than desperation. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Then one evening, somewhere around age 36 or 37, you open your spreadsheet. It's a routine you followed for years, nothing unusual. You enter the latest numbers, update the balances, adjust a few assumptions. Then you notice something. The projection says you'll likely reach your target before 40. Not maybe, not potentially, likely. For a moment, you simply stare at the screen, because this is different. For years, the goal felt theoretical. Now, it feels real. The finish line exists on a calendar, a specific year, a specific season, perhaps even a specific month. Suddenly, retirement at 40 isn't an idea, it's a forecast. and that changes everything psychologically. Goals require belief. Forecasts require patience. You no longer wonder if it can happen, you begin wondering what life will look like when it does. What will you do with your mornings? What projects will matter? What relationships deserve more attention? What parts of yourself have been waiting for time? Because financial independence is never really about leaving work. It's about gaining the freedom to choose your work. Some people continue working, some start businesses, some volunteer, some travel, some write, some teach. Some spend more time with grandchildren. The destination looks different for everyone, but the common thread remains the same: choice. Choice is the reward, not idleness, not luxury. Choice. And strangely enough, that's when work itself often becomes more enjoyable, because you no longer need it in the same way. The pressure changes, the fear changes, the relationship changes. When you know you can walk away, you negotiate differently. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. You become less dependent on external validation, because your security no longer comes from a paycheck alone. It comes from years of decisions working together. The portfolio has become more than money. It has become independence. And independence changes how you move through the world. Then comes the final stretch. Ironically, it's often the most difficult phase emotionally, not financially, emotionally. Because now the goal is close enough to touch. Every market decline feels larger. Every unexpected expense feels more significant. Every uncertainty feels amplified. You become protective of what you've built. That reaction is natural. 18 years of effort deserves protection. But this is where discipline matters most. The same patience that built the portfolio must now carry it across the finish line. You resist the urge to become overly conservative. You resist the urge to constantly check balances. You resist the urge to make dramatic changes. Because dramatic changes are rarely what got you here. Consistency got you here, and consistency will finish the job. 1 year becomes 6 months. 6 months becomes 90 days. 90 days becomes 30. The countdown feels surreal. Not because you're becoming wealthy, because you're becoming free. And there is a profound difference between those two things. Many wealthy people are not free. Their lifestyles require constant maintenance. Their expenses require continuous income. Their obligations continue expanding. Freedom comes from having enough, not from having everything. And somewhere along the journey, you learned that lesson. That lesson changed your life more than any investment ever could. The final day arrives much differently than people imagine. There is no dramatic soundtrack, no standing ovation, no cinematic moment where everyone suddenly realizes what you've accomplished. In fact, most people have no idea. To them, it looks like an ordinary Friday. You answer emails, attend meetings, finish projects, say goodbye to colleagues. You thank the people who helped you along the way. You smile, you shake hands, you wish everyone well, and then you walk out. The parking lot looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. The building looks exactly the same. The road home hasn't changed. Yet somehow everything feels different. Not because the world changed, because your relationship with the world changed. For 18 years, your life operated according to a schedule designed by necessity. Now, necessity has loosened its grip. You sit in your car for a moment before starting the engine. Not because you're emotional, not because you're uncertain, because you're realizing something profound. The freedom you're experiencing today wasn't created this afternoon. It wasn't created this month. It wasn't even created this year. It was created thousands of ordinary days ago. One decision at a time, one contribution at a time, one choice at a time. The retirement date isn't the beginning of freedom. It's simply the day freedom becomes visible. The real work happened long before. It happened on random Tuesdays when nobody was watching. It happened when you chose investing over upgrading. It happened when you stayed invested during market declines. It happened when you ignored noise and trusted process. It happened when progress felt invisible. The result was merely delayed. The cause came years earlier. That's a lesson that applies far beyond money. Most meaningful outcomes in life work the same way. Healthy relationships, strong bodies, successful careers, personal growth. They all reward consistency long before they reward results. We often celebrate the visible moment while ignoring the invisible years that created it. Financial independence teaches you to appreciate those invisible years, because without them, nothing else exists. Monday arrives. No alarm clock, no rush, no traffic, no urgent calendar notifications demanding your attention before sunrise. You wake naturally. For the first time in years, the day belongs entirely to you. That realization is surprisingly emotional. Not overwhelming, just deep. You make coffee. You sit quietly. You look out the window. People are moving quickly. Cars fill the streets. The city is already busy. For years, you were part of that movement. Now you're observing it. And for a moment, you feel something difficult to describe: gratitude. Not because work was bad, not because everyone else is doing something wrong, but because you have options. The ability to choose changes everything. Many people assume financial independence means escaping responsibility. The opposite is true. It means accepting responsibility earlier than most. You accepted responsibility for your future at 22. You accepted responsibility when saving wasn't convenient. You accepted responsibility when nobody would have blamed you for spending more. You accepted responsibility when the rewards were distant and invisible. Now you're living with the results. The truth is, retiring at 40 isn't really about retiring. Most people who achieve financial independence don't stop contributing to the world. Humans need purpose. Humans need challenge. Humans need meaning. What changes isn't the desire to contribute. What changes is the freedom to decide how. Maybe you mentor young professionals. Maybe you start a small business. Maybe you volunteer. Maybe you write. Maybe you travel. Maybe you finally pursue something you've postponed for years because life kept getting in the way. The specific activity doesn't matter. What matters is that the decision becomes yours. That ownership creates a different kind of happiness. A quieter happiness. A more sustainable happiness. One built on autonomy rather than consumption. And that's where many people misunderstand wealth. They imagine wealth as accumulation. More houses, more cars, more possessions, more status. But after watching financially independent people for years, a different pattern emerges. The happiest among them aren't obsessed with having more. They're grateful for needing less. Needing less creates flexibility. Needing less creates resilience. Needing less creates freedom. Every additional obligation reduces options. Every unnecessary expense increases dependency. Every lifestyle upgrade raises the cost of maintaining your life. That's why the denominator matters so much. Most people spend years trying to increase income while ignoring expenses. Yet expenses determine how much freedom costs. The person spending $40,000 annually reaches independence far sooner than the person spending $120,000, even if both earn impressive salaries. Income helps, savings rate transforms, and lifestyle determines the finish line. That reality isn't glamorous, but it is empowering because it places control back into your hands. You don't need perfect stock picks. You don't need extraordinary talent. You don't need a seven-figure salary. You need a plan, you need consistency, and you need enough patience to allow time to do its work. The market will have bad years. Life will have difficult seasons. Unexpected expenses will appear. Plans will require adjustments. None of those realities invalidate the process. They are part of the process. Financial independence was never about creating a perfect life. It was about creating a resilient one. A life capable of absorbing shocks without collapsing. A life where unexpected challenges don't automatically become financial emergencies. A life where your future isn't dependent on a single paycheck. That resilience creates peace of mind. And peace of mind is one of the most undervalued assets in the world. The funny thing is that when people ask financially independent individuals what changed after reaching their number, the answers are rarely what you'd expect. They don't talk much about money, they talk about stress, or rather, the absence of it. They talk about sleeping better. They talk about feeling less trapped. They talk about making decisions based on values instead of fear. They talk about having time. Time to think, time to rest, time to be present, time to notice things they once rushed past, time to sit on a bench outside a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning. Which brings us back to where this story began. The bench, the coffee, the Tuesday. The ordinary moment that took 18 years to create. At 10:14 a.m., people continue walking past. Some look tired, some look excited, some look stressed. Some are dreaming about retirement someday. Some are wondering how they'll pay next month's bills. Some are moving toward goals they haven't fully defined yet. You watch them for a moment, not with judgment, with understanding, because you used to be one of them. You remember the uncertainty. You remember the doubts. You remember wondering whether the sacrifices were worth it. You remember checking your investment account when the balance was tiny. You remember the market corrections. You remember the temptation to spend more. You remember the moments when progress felt impossibly slow. And now you understand something you couldn't see back then. Every contribution mattered. Every month mattered. Every year mattered. Not because any single action changed your life, because all of them combined did. That's how extraordinary outcomes are usually built. Not through dramatic breakthroughs, through ordinary consistency, through repetition, through patience, through showing up long after excitement disappears. The world celebrates dramatic success stories because they're entertaining, but most real success is boring. It happens gradually, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day the results become impossible to ignore. The Tuesday wasn't won in a single moment. It was earned in thousands of moments, thousands of choices, thousands of opportunities to abandon the plan, thousands of reasons to delay, thousands of excuses that would have sounded perfectly reasonable. You simply kept going, and eventually the math caught up. That's the part people often overlook. Financial independence isn't magic. It isn't luck. It isn't reserved for a special group of people. At its core, it's arithmetic. Savings rate, time, compounding, patience. Repeated over and over until the numbers become large enough to support the life you want. The formula is simple. Living it requires discipline. And discipline, unlike luck, is available to everyone. You finish the last sip of coffee. The cup is empty. The bench is still warm from the sun. The afternoon stretches ahead without obligations. No meetings, no deadlines, no countdown to the weekend, just possibility. You stand up slowly, take a deep breath, and begin walking. Not because you have somewhere you must be, because you can go anywhere you choose. That is what the number bought. Not luxury, not status, not admiration. Freedom. The quiet freedom of owning your time. The quiet freedom of having enough. The quiet freedom of knowing that 18 years ago, when nobody was paying attention, you started building something that eventually gave you this moment. An ordinary Tuesday, a simple cup of coffee, a bench in the sun, and a life that finally belongs to you.